Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are making Cuban style paella. Da, 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 da. Paella gets me hyped because it is absolutely so delicious. This is one of the most delicious Spanish dish. Now, the prep does take time. Yes, it is intimidating, but trust me, with this video and my guide, you will be able to make this paella and it will be so delicious and so worth every single minute of the prep time. Everything that I'm using in this video and the amount that I'm using will be listed for you below in the description box. Let's get right into this video. Let's dive into the ingredients that you will need. Here I have 1 cup of chopped chorizo sausage and also 1 cup of chopped ham. I just used this brand here that came with 4 sausages and I chopped all of them, but you don't have to use that much if you don't want to. But you need at least 2 of those chorizo sausages because that is what's going to give our oil some flavor and flavor our vegetables. For this recipe, we are using bone-in chicken thigh. You need that bone and skin, okay? Because the bone and skin is what adds flavor. As a Haitian girl, we clean all of our meat. What I did to clean this meat is simple. I put the meat in a bowl, put some lime and salt over it. Then I brought boiling water right over that meat. Let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes. And then I drained out the water. After that, I just use a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper for flavor, because you want to be careful with the salt when you're cooking this dish because there's so many flavors that are going to tie in together, and especially if you're using 4 of those chorizo sausages, you have to be careful with your salt intake because you don't want to make the food salty, okay? I'm using a can of smoked oysters and a can of smoked baby clams. Now, I would never eat clams and oysters, but honey, in this dish, I will eat anything because it's so good. And then I have here 1 medium bell pepper and red pepper that I chopped. I have 1 large white onion. You can also use yellow onion. This here is bijol. I think I'm pronouncing it right. But bijol, what it is it's a coloring season that Spanish people use in their dishes. And this is what gives your rice a yellow color, but it also has seasoning in it. So it also gives flavor. I have 3-4 cups of red wine here, and I just use the wine that I drink. It's good to use whichever wine that you drink. You can use that instead of buying like cooking wine, okay? And it will make the food taste even better because it's the wine that you prefer. I have oil. I'm going to be using Valencia rice, okay? If you're gonna do this, do it with the Spanish rice. So you use Valencia rice for this recipe, and I'm using 2 14-ounce bag. That is the equivalent of 4 cups of rice. We have chicken broth, we have shrimp and lobsters. But with the lobsters, what we're going to do is we're going to take the meat out of the shell and chop the meat up. That way everybody get a really nice bite of this lobster. But we're not going to get rid of the shell. We're going to use the shell to garnish this beautiful dish. Keep watching and you'll see what I mean. You can also use crab meat in this recipe. I couldn't find the crab meat that I wanted to use, so I didn't use crab meat. We're also going to be needing a cup of frozen sweet peas. I'm starting off with a clean pot. I'm putting in my oil, let it heat up a little bit. My stove is on a medium heat here. We're putting in our sausage and ham to saute for about 8 to 10 minutes. And what this is going to do, this is going to flavor our oil. That sausage is going to completely change the color of the oil and also give the oil flavor. When you're sauteing, you want to make sure you're moving whatever you're sauteing around in the pot, especially if you're not working with a non-stick pot. That way it doesn't burn or stick to the pot. And that's why you see me always going back and forth with my spoon. That way it doesn't stick to the pot. I am not Cuban, nor am I Spanish. I am just a Bohemian Haitian girl that loves me some Spanish dishes, okay? So I'm bringing it for you. So don't come for me in a comment and tell me this is not how you guys do things. Like I said, I'm not Spanish, so I'm going to put my Haitian Bohemian twists to every single dish that I'm making, all right? As you can see here, the color of the oil has changed. So I'm getting all that flavor in the oil. And now I'm just going to take everything out because it's nicely sauteed and set that aside. After I set that aside, I'm going to go in with the same oil that's in the pot because that's what I need. I'm going to go in with my vegetables now and saute my vegetables for 10 minutes. You want to make sure you give it a good stir. Make sure that oil is really getting into that vegetable because that is what's going to flavor our vegetable. You can make paella whichever way you please. If there's something that I'm using here that you don't like, toss it out or replace it, substitute it for something else. That's completely fine. After 5 minutes of sauteing, I'm going to use my garlic crusher and I'm going to put my garlic in the pot. The reason why I'm not putting the garlic in before is because garlic tend to burn very quick. So you want to make sure that you don't add it for the entire 10 minutes because by the end of the 10 minutes it'll be all burnt in the vegetables. So you add it when it's almost done sauteing just so it gets a little bit of saute, a little bit of flavor, but you also conserve it so it doesn't burn. That is why I'm adding it now. Now I'm removing all of this vegetable and I'm setting it aside. I clean my pot and now I'm going to fry my chicken. You can just use a different pot, but I just wanted to use the same pot. Now I'm adding about a cup of oil so I can fry my chicken. You want to just get it a little bit of brown, but if you're like me, I like my meat well done. So I'm going to actually fry my meat for 10 minutes on each side. So it's going to be a little more than just brown. It's going to cook a little bit, okay? You can use my video as a guide, but then you make this recipe your recipe, okay? So as you can see now after 10 minutes, I am turning my meat around to the opposite side so that it can cook for another 10 minutes. And you can see that it's nicely golden brown. That is exactly what you want. You want a nice golden brown color and it's going to be nice and crispy, okay? So after a total of 20 minutes, 10 minutes on each side, I am removing my chicken from the pot. If you don't want your meat to be well done, then just fry it for about 6 minutes on each side and that should be sufficient time. After I remove the chicken, I'm going to just strain the oil and conserve the oil for later on. Now I clean the pot again, okay? And now we're going to get ready to cook our rice. So I'm adding in my chicken broth, my red wine. I'm adding in half a cup of water. And now I'm going to put in my clams and oysters. I did drain out the extra liquid that was in the can, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And now that beautiful bowl of vegetables. So everything is going in and all of this is just going to just tie in together so beautifully. I'm adding in my sausage, my ham, everything is going in the pot. Now I'm putting in the bijal and then there goes in my meat. So everything that we prepped before is going in this pot. I'm going to mix it really well. At this point, my stove is on a medium-high heat and we're going to now cook our rice. Now that I'm tasting my liquid, making sure that it tastes good because this is the time to fix it, okay? If something's wrong or it's not enough season or something's a little off, this is the time to fix it. because after you put your rice in and it's cooked, you can't really go back and fix it. So I'm adding a little butter because I always seal the deal with butter. And now I'm going to let it cook for about 3 minutes just so all those flavors can really marinate in together. And then after 3 minutes, I'm going to go in and add in my rice. After I add in my rice, I'm going to give this a nice stir. Make sure the rice is all in there. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. Again, you have to be careful with your salt intake. And the salt intake is really your preference because remember, you have a lot of different flavors that are going to tie together to make one. And the most important thing is that ham and the sausage that are already high in salt. So you want to be careful so the food is not salty. One of the mistakes that's easy to make with paella is to over season it because we're working with so many different flavors. So now this is where my Haitian side comes in. So a Spanish recipe would tell you at this point, you put the stove on low and let it cook. But being Haitian, that's not the way we make our rice. So now I'm going to kick in that Haitian side of me. So I'm going to let this cook uncovered until the water is completely diminished like this. So when the water is completely diminished like this, and I did stir occasionally before I got to this point, so that way it doesn't stick too much at the bottom of the pot. Now I'm going to bring my stove down to a low heat. Now, if your stove is like mine, which starts on low to 10, 10 being the highest, I'm going to bring it to a 3. Okay. You should know what your stove is like. And if it cooks very, very fast on 3, then of course you will bring it to that low or to 1. So now I'm going to cover my pot and let this cook. And what I'm going to do is, because it has a little hole, I'm going to use a little piece of aluminum foil, and I'm going to block that hole. That way there's no air passing through and it can really, really slow cook. And I'm going to let this rice cook for 45 minutes on the low temperature. And in the meantime, I'm going to prep my seafood. In the meantime, I'm going to prep my seafood. So now I'm bringing that oil that I set aside. I'm putting a little bit of it in this pan. And then I'm going to bring my shrimp and my lobster meat in there. And then a little bit of green peppers that I just sliced in just for flavor. And a little bit of salt and pepper. And now I'm going to let this saute. I'm putting in a few pinches of salt and black pepper for taste, and I'm going to let this saute. When it comes to shrimp and lobster, it doesn't take that long. So you're just going to saute it for about 5 minutes and you will see the color change. Once the color changes, then you know your seafood is ready, because you don't want to overcook your seafood because eventually the paella is going to go in the oven. So you definitely don't want to overcook your seafood. Now that our rice is done, look at that. That looks so beautiful. Now, I could have just transferred the seafood to the pot. That would have made it easier. But I'm actually going to transfer it to the pan because the pan is oven safe. And I'm going to be able to just put it right in the oven. So at this point, I'm transferring all my rice into the seafood. And when I get all that rice in there, what I'm going to do is basically fold the seafood into the rice. Now that I've folded all of the seafood into the rice, now I'm going to garnish this beautiful, delicious dish. What we're going to use to garnish this beautiful, delicious dish is our frozen sweet peas and our lobster shells that we set aside. So you just sprinkle your sweet peas right over the rice, just like so. Make it look pretty. Now we're going to put our lobster tail right on top. We're going to put this baby in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes, because you don't want to overcook it. But when you put this in the oven, what it's going to do is just really seal all of those flavors together. So after 10 to 15 minutes at 350 degrees, this is what we're working with, guys. Look at this beauty. It is so beautiful, so nice to present on a table, especially if you have guests coming over, you're having a get together, you're having a family Sunday meal or Sunday dinner, whatever you're doing, especially if you have guests. This is the most beautiful dish to be presented in this form at the table. You can just wait for everybody to just applaud because it's just so nice, and it also tastes so delicious. Definitely give this paella a try, especially if you're Bahamian or Haitian. Step out of your comfort zone, guys, and make this dish, and you will be surprised of how well it all ties in together and how delicious it tastes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you guys. I have lots of more great recipes to share with you guys, and I have so many that I've shared already on my channel. So take a look at some of those recipes, and if you are Spanish and this brought you to my channel, why don't you step out of your comfort zone and make one of our Haitian or Bahamian dishes that we have here on our channel, and just try something new. Exactly what I was doing with the paella. I tried something new and I absolutely fell in love with it. After I fell in love with the paella, I found myself stepping out of my comfort zone and making more Spanish dishes. And I do have a few more dishes to share with you guys in the upcoming episode. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you love content like this. Leave me a comment below letting me know how it worked out for you if you tried it. What do you do in your paella? Do you make it a different way? Definitely let me know. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you for all of the support that you guys have been giving me on this channel. Thank you again for kicking it in the kitchen with me today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys. Bon appetit.